Hello everyone, we're not doing a video today on Scarlet Spider because right now the decks that we have and what I've tried, he's very meh. He's not really worth the key or the tokens, and maybe that changes, but right now the initial impression is just not very good. So we're going to be leaning into one of the best statistic decks in the game over the last couple of seasons actually, and that is going to be Zoo. But before we jump over into the deck explanation, I'm live right now on twitch.tv/TLSG Snap. Today starts the 2-week span that I'm going to be trying to push for my 1,000 subscriber goal on Twitch, which is the level that me and my wife agreed on for me to quit my full-time job and lean heavily into the content creation instead. And so I'm going to be live every day from now through the next 2 weeks trying to hit that 1,000 mark. So if you like my content, if you want to check me out live, jump over on twitch.tv/TLSG Snap. I would love to have you. But as far as today's deck build goes, it is a Zoo deck. Zoo decks are very linear and they're very strong. Kind of like a Hela-esque deck, except for it's not quite as frustrating for the opponent, in my opinion. These Zoo decks don't typically require a deep collection. I would say the only two that are really required would be Gilgamesh and Marvel Boy. Both of those are fantastic for the archetype. Mockingbird, although she is great, can be replaced for something else, maybe a lower curve like Kyera or a tech card like a Cosmo to be able to stop the opponent from being able to do their on reveals. Everything else is a relatively low collection level or replaceable. And it's linear in that it runs the same thing every single game, but it is very, very strong. This has been one of the best performing archetypes over the last few seasons, at least the last 30 days, and that is all the way across the board. So not just infinite top 10, where a lot of times you get really complex decks that are hard to run if you don't know how to run them efficiently. This does well in top 10%, top 50%, and pre-infinite. So if you're looking for a deck to just be able to grind out and get good consistent gains, this one is going to be the one for you. The main idea is that you curve out your cards relatively easily, relatively early, and then you have your big explosive last turn play in like a Gilgamesh plus a 1-cost card. Now, against some matchups, maybe you'll want to hold your go-wide cards in hand, like your Shanna and Squirrel Girl, just in case they drop a Killmonger. Then you'd be able to backfill, but otherwise, very easy to just kind of curve into your cards and autopilot the win the rest of the way. This deck does have a few matchups that it's not really favored in, and that is going to be anything that goes incredibly high roll, so like a Mr. Negative deck, a Living Tribunal deck. Clutter, it does struggle with some. You'll have to make sure that you play your cards very, very slowly and very meticulously to be able to outscale and outpower a Clutter deck. And then it also struggles to destroy because Killmonger. Otherwise, it has amazing stats all across the board. And even with those considered in, it typically has at least a 54 to 55% win rate, which is crazy for an archetype overall. So there's a lot of different ways to build it if you don't have these particular cards. If you need any kind of subs, let me know. I'd be happy to provide them in the comment section down below. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. The right lane, they did hold that one down. We will grab the 4 cubes against you, good old Seth. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Captain Salami. The first location is the Space Throne. And so I almost want to go Nebula over there. She scales for the majority of the game. They have to at least pressure something pretty decent over there. Unless they have a Killmonger, I think we're fine. And so Daily Bugle, they're going to get Khazar, Nico, Ant-Man. We get their War Machine. Interesting. So we will be able to open up and play into the Space Throne a little bit easier. I think with the War Machine, I want to dump our hand a little bit earlier than we would normally. And so that way we open up the ability to play War Machine on 4. So especially if they go something like Storm into the War Machine line, we'll have a Return of Fire War Machine as well. Death's Domain is unfortunate for us. I do wish we would have played some of our cards over there. So Lady Sif comes in, it gets rid of their Infinite. 6. Not an Agatha deck. All right, let's go, I guess, War Machine. That opens up our ability to play into the Space Throne. I assume they go War Machine here as well. But it's a Hela War Machine build? It's craziness. Feels wild. But it is what it is. We can go with a blue Marvel. We have the ability to get at least 1 power, 2 power, at max 3 power into Death's Domain with our squirrels. Eesh. So Nico into Ghost Rider. So the big Infinite over in the right lane. They get a copy of it. And so not a Helideck, but more of a Ghost Rider build. Interesting. Okay. So we lose the right lane, even with our armor. We have this lane pretty decently locked in. We can go Dazzler, Mockingbird. Go ahead and try that. See how big they go in the... Wait, they created a copy... Oh, man. They created a copy of the... Ghost Rider. We take those. That's what Zoo does, is it feels like you just kind of stumble into your wins. Because you curve into your cards so easily, you can adapt to a lot of different situations. We take those. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Grimo. The first location, Washington, D.C. Fantastic with Squirrel Girl. And a lot of times I will hold and save the Squirrel Girl. But with Marvel Boy being what he is, I actually think we do something a little bit different here. I want to go Nico because it's the copy spell. I'm going to skip on 2 into a Marvel Boy on 3, Marvel Boy plus Squirrel Girl on 4. And all of those 1-cost cards are going to scale dramatically. I almost want to snap. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and snap into it. The only thing we fall to here is Killmonger. And if they're a destroy deck that runs the Killmonger and they didn't have it on 1, I think we're in a pretty good spot. So the negative ninjas come into play. Madam Web for the movement component, so they could get their pretty good high roll. We can also start hiding our cards in Dark Dimension if we need to. But let's go Marvel Boy. We're not going to hide the marvelousness that is this boy. They move the ninja, go Dagger. Unfortunate. Dagger, especially with the Zoo deck, super unfortunate because we explode quite a bit of power quite frequently. Let's go Squirrel Girl here. They did hit us with a snap. I'm just hoping that it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. They move the Dagger and then go into, what, a Ghost Spider to pull Dagger back. And so if that's the case, our biggest hope is that they don't get another big movement generator. They could be going the full-on movement package instead of the more hybrid. They could go full-on movement, which would have like the Heimdall, would have maybe an Eliath, a Cosmo. But we are going to get +6 onto the board every single game, which cannot be, or every single turn, which cannot be understated by any means. We could hide a Mockingbird. We could Mockingbird Ant-Man. We could even Mockingbird Ant-Man armor. I'm going to do this. They move the Dagger over. They get the big extra scaling on that one. Let's see what else they have. They could have a Cloak, but right now they only have the Dagger that's the big move enabler. So the Vulture, Ghost Spider, we're probably looking at a Heimdall shift. And if so, we're perfectly fine in Dark Dimension. We just need the big heavy hitter into the left lane. And even if we don't have Heimdall, I guess just move Vulture, drop something big here. Could be what they go with. But we have the Mockingbird, which helps us a touch here if they don't go with the Heimdall shift. So I kind of think we just compete for right and left. The Ant-Man scales quite a bit. We have the big Gilgamesh, which is going to be, well, big. The 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on top of the 12 we already have. We also get a little bit of benefit in the squirrels in the right lane. So big Goliath comes into play, but no such luck, my friend. We have the big Gilgamesh to left. We have the Mockingbird hidden in the right lane. The 21 power dagger is big, but it is not big enough. The small, little, insignificant ant is going to be able to come over the top of it. We will grab the 8 cubes against the scary movement deck, and we will gladly take those. That is a huge win. The power scaling of Double Marvel Boy is ludicrous, which he absolutely held down this game and gave us that positioning to be able to have those big plays to find the finisher. We will take it. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Dr. Bonner. The first location is the Superflow. We have our Nico. Sometimes it's useful to hold that for a potential copy spell, maybe even a destroy spell to dig deeper into our cards. So they have the Nico +2 Silver Sable, so they're looking to bounce their cards in, which is formidable. I respect it. Being able to explode that much power on the last turn can be scary, but we'll see. Central Park, wow. So cheap Mockingbird for us, but the space gets pretty constricted pretty quickly. We do get the Nico Destroy. Don't know that we want to go with that line, so I'm going to go ahead and just do Mockingbird left. If they do like a Falcon or a Beast, they're going to have hand space problem with how many squirrels are going to want to pop in. We have the squirrels as well for turn 3. I'm going to go Nico, and then we'll do Khazar on 4. That opens up the door for Blue Marvel or Marvel Boy on 5. Which then opens up the door for Squirrel Girl Gilgamesh final turn. And so that's what we're pushing towards here. And so the Rocket, no such luck, my friend. And then Falcon. So they're pulling all of them back in, and Falcon does not go with them. Unfortunate. Your Werewolf is going to be pretty big. The Rocket, however, is not. So turn number 5, Blue Marvel top deck. Beautiful. Could not have asked for anything better. Let's go Blue Marvel. And then we have the Squirrel plus Gilgamesh right is how we're going to finish it off. And so even if they get a really high, large variance of spread, Werewolf gets really big, I think we're fine. Silver Sable comes in. So this mid lane is actually a little bit scary. So with Gilgamesh, it did get hit with Silver Sable. The left lane, I think, is fine. Mid is potentially problematic. But maybe not once Werewolf bounces out. Nah, we're just going to go with the good old full stack in the right lane and hope for the best. Nah, we're going to go Squirrel mid, Gilgamesh right. Okay, we do force the retreat. It's just one of those, it spreads so much power so consistently that you just, a lot of times, outpower the opponent and what they can do. We'll take the one. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Wino. The first location, Crown City. Let's go ahead and throw our Nebula to the right. And a lot of Gilgamesh decks don't actually run the Nebula. I kind of like it. It forces them to play into certain locations, and you can use that to your advantage. But turn 2, let's go ahead and go Ant-Man. Turn 3 is going to be Marvel Boy. It's only going to be scaling 2 cards, unfortunately. We do have the Khazar for 4, unless we draw something better. So maybe Shanna, maybe Squirrel Girl. If we draw Blue Marvel, then we don't have to lean on the Khazar so heavily. And they do have Nico Destroy. Okay, so the Iceman. I was wondering if it was going to be like a Deadpool Destroy deck, but with Iceman, I'm thinking probably not. Khazar also goes up to 5. Unfortunate. And then Muir Island in the right lane. We do get Shanna. And I think we go ahead and play Shanna. Next turn can always be Marvel Boy. But this way we get more out of the scaling in Muir Island with our Shanna line. And if Shanna pulls a Squirrel Girl in the right lane, that's okay. Anywhere else, it will cap out our right lane. Becomes a bit of an issue. But we can always scale it a little bit further with like our Khazar, Blue Marvel. We lose Marvel Boy. Unfortunate. The card we did not need to lose. Ant-Man does come down in the right lane. Do we go ahead and cap that one out? Ant-Man's fine. We get extra scaling. We have Khazar to help all of our one-cost cards on the final turn. And then our Gilgamesh. I'd rather top deck into a Blue Marvel here. Or maybe even a Mockingbird. We could go Mockingbird next turn. The right lane gets buffed up by 4, so Gilgamesh would scale by 4. If they have a big Shadow King, a little bit scary, a little bit unfortunate. Otherwise, we have quite a bit of presence or pressure. So Sable, an on reveal over to the right. They could have Spider-Ham we have to look out for. So Kate Bishop. We have to look out for them full capping any of our locations. And then Rocket in the left, but we did not play over there, my friend. Your Rocket is not going to scale. Huge piece being dodged. I'm going to throw Khazar into Necrosha. That way, if they got an Acid Arrow out of the Kate Bishop, we're not going to be full capped in Crown City. We can still play Nico plus Gilgamesh and have Gilgamesh poised and positioned over to the left lane. All right, so Shadow King does come down, and it comes down a touch early as well. Interesting. So we're going to get 2 rounds of scaling in our cards in the right. And so the Pim Arrow, they do pull back in their Rocket, their Silver Sable, their Nico. But we still have a pretty beefy lead in the right lane. Khazar comes in. They could always move the Werewolf over, but then they're pretty hurt here. We get the 1 cube retreat. It's hard to really lean into. We'll take the 1. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have King. The first location, Central Park. So we have a lot of cards that are already on the board or gonna be on the board. So maybe Shanna on 3, but still becomes a little problematic. Let's go ahead and go Nebula. Our board space becomes a really big issue really quickly. So Ebony Mom, Black Cat? Interesting. Let's go ahead and go Shanna. I don't really want to go Shanna at all. Maybe it's just Ant-Man. We have Khazar. I want to save space for the Squirrel Girl Gilgamesh last turn. Unless it looks like they have the War Machine line. In which case, we might need to pivot a little bit. So we can go Khazar left lane. They skipped and they had snapped. So I'm guessing a War Machine. The War Machine Legion could be in the mix for them. They go Legion here. The Legion into either of these, actually. So I'm actually going to go Marvel Boy Squirrel Girl, and we're going to lock ourselves voluntarily out of the game and hope that they just have that big Infinite. If we're winning in all 3 lanes, a big Infinite cannot find that way to win. We have the scaling of Marvel Boy. It's so-so. It's going to hit some of our 1-cost cards, but will it be enough scaling is always the biggest question. All right, the double drop on turn number 5. So not Legion. We could have left the left lane alone and open. So Blade and Cole Obsidian come down. We are going to have them beaten in mid, but not the right lane as is. I'm going to let this one ride and see because I'm curious. If they don't play into the vault, we scale up and we at least match their power over there. With the Nebula, Marvel Boy could potentially send a stat their way. We do end up getting the retreat. King could just not hold it down. I'm guessing the big Infinite was that final finisher, and it just wasn't enough to guarantee a win in any of the lanes because they could have easily lost this one if Marvel Boy had splashed any of these 4, and then they would have won one of the other locations. We will take the 2, and that is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.